Hey everybody, Crash Hardy here, back with another pro wrestler interview. Today I have none other than the man from Planet Stasiak, Shawn Stasiak. Shawn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Taylor. Hardy, are you related to Hardy Boys by any chance?
No, no relation. My last name's actually Hart.
Oh, Hart. I thought you said Hardy.
Well, my YouTube name is Crash Hardy, but my real last name is
That's
Hart.
okay. So let me guess. Crash Holly was one of your favorite wrestlers, and the Hardy Boys are another one of your favorite wrestlers, right?
Sorta.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to figure out why you put the two, but yeah, that's right. Hart. So maybe you're related to the Hart family.
Maybe, not sure. Maybe there's some
Yeah.
ancestry there, but
You got to do a DNA test, one of those ancestry, whatever. Though I did one a couple years back. You know what it came back as?
what's that?
100% alien.
Oh, wow. Well, that explains a lot.
Exactly. Planet Stasiak. He said I hail from Planet Stasiak, so I guess that was a goofy character. That was a character, an idea that I had in mind that never came to fruition the proper way. If Vince McMahon and the company would have put some elbow grease behind that and gave it its true due diligence, that thing could have been a huge hit. What I had in mind, but that's a whole different story. Let's go ahead and start with your questions, man. I'm sure you have a few.
All right, well, my first question for you is what is it like growing up with a wrestler for a dad?
Well, it was definitely unique and different than I'm sure a lot of people in the relationships they've had with their dads. I mean, whenever you have a high profile father, whether they're an athlete or musician or entertainer, actor, whatever, public talent, I think your life is different, But my dad, when he was home, he was always just dad and loved his kids and was just a normal guy. I don't say he's normal. I don't think any of us were normal to in our household, but no, he was a loving, caring father. All my friends loved him. Great guy, very caring, loving. Would take his shirt off, his back. But you didn't want to get on his bad side. That's for sure. He could be a tough one. But as far as my memories of him and his influence he had on me growing up around the wrestling business back in my dad's day and a lot of my youth, there was what was called the territory days. I think there was like 32 of them, and I spent a lot of time, in Portland, Oregon. Don Owens was a promoter up there that had the Portland, sports arena was the main, headquarters of Portland wrestling, but it was the whole Portland, Washington, Idaho area. Not so much Idaho, mainly Oregon and Washington. But there was Roy Shires in San Francisco. There was the Von Erichs here in Dallas. There was Paul Bosch in Houston. You had Florida territory, Jerry Lawler in Memphis. You had Vern Gagne in Minnesota. You had, of course, Vince McMahon Sr., the current Vince McMahon that we know today's father, who my dad actually worked for back in the 70s. Had the eastern seaboard, like New York and all the way up through, New York to Maine, Bangor, Maine, that East Coast area. So there were territory days, and so we traveled. I was yanked out of school districts my whole life, and I was born in Hayward, California, same hospital as The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. In fact, I crossed paths with Dwayne when I was 10 and he was 8 in 1980. We met in was a place called the Crow's Nest at the Portland Sports Arena when his dad, Rocky Johnson, came through the territory. And that's where I got to see a lot of these great wrestling talents come through before they became like, they were popular then and big superstars, but they became even bigger when Vince McMahon, went basically bought out all the territories and went global. But there was guys like Harley Race and Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, Jesse Ventura. These guys, the sheep herders, they were called before they became the bushwhackers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was exposed to all of these wrestling, figures and talent as a young man, And my dad, like I said, he was everything to me. My, best friend, looked up to him figuratively and literally. He was a big man. But yeah, he'd take me on the road with him. He loved his camper. He's like the camp out, like little like camping resorts and lakes, and had nice pools and stuff. And we'd spend the day out at the pool or at a river or a lake or something, and then pack it up and then go to he'd have to wrestle that night, and then we'd go on to the next town and then do the same thing the next day. So I got a chance to be on the road with him in Portland, in that Pacific Northwest territory. But he was, wherever we went, man, it's like everyone recognized him, knew who he was, and he was a baby face, mainly in Portland, so he was very beloved. But my dad was a hit everywhere he went. He was, again, the 5th wrestler in the history of the WWE to become WWE champion. Back then it was called the WWF. Mm-hmm. Texas, we came to Dallas and Houston many times over, and Toronto, St. Louis. I mean, wherever he went, anywhere around the world, Japan, Australia, he was a big hit. He was a big draw. So, that's the just combining all of those, my personal experience and just the knowledge that I gained from just knowing his lineage and his experience in the business. It was definitely rich.
Well, that's very nice to know that you had a nice relationship with your dad, and he's definitely in the history books, WWE Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I got a bit of a qualm about that, though. I can go into it if you want, if you like. You say I'll make it quick. The Hall of Fame thing was a huge disappointment. I was very, very discouraged, and not to sound ungrateful by any means. I'm glad that they acknowledged him, but Taylor, look, I for years had campaigned and promoted the idea of Stan the Man Stasiak, the 5th wrestler in the history of the WWE become champion, to be, in the Hall of Fame and to be properly inducted by his only son, me, that's actually a speaker of all things. I'm a chiropractor as well, wellness life coach, and doing some other entertainment projects. So I wear different hats. But my point is I anticipated and campaigned this for years, and I had to learn that they were going to put my dad finally in the Hall of Fame through Twitter. No one from the office called me. No one informed me. I was so heartbroken because I thought they'd do the right thing and say, hey, we're going to put him in this year, and they're going to call me, ahead of time so I could prepare a nice little speech. I don't need, more than 5-10 minutes up there. Would have shared a couple, good stories, and would have accepted the honors and acknowledged my father for that acknowledgement to be a Hall of Famer in the WWE, but it never came. In fact, I was never even invited to the venue where it was actually in I think it was in 2000. I want to say 2016 is when this was in. It was in New Orleans, so it's only a short flight away from Dallas. It was just very heartbreaking for me, and I'm not trying to shit on the WWE or point fingers, but when you bring up Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Famer, on one end I'm like, okay, I acknowledge it, but it's heartbreaking for me because I remember the impact it had on me. It really crushed me, man. Really bothered me. I think he deserved a little bit more than a 30-second video package that they did on him. I mean, God, he's one of the first top 5 champions. I know he only held the belt for 9 days, one of the shortest reigns in WWE history, but that doesn't matter, man. He was a transitional champion. They wanted to get the belt off of Pedro Morales at the time, who was a babyface, and get it over to Bruno Sammartino, who was a babyface. They just don't want the two babyfaces facing each other, but they wanted to get the belt, the strap off Pedro, put on Bruno, so they think, who's the hottest heel that would just be so fitting to make the transition? It was Stan Stasiak. So it meant a lot, especially in the 70s. During that time, there were a lot of other heels that they could have chosen. They chose my dad. So, he always told me, he said, Shawn, apart from me being born, which was sweet of him to say, it was the happiest day of his life, but apart from that, him becoming the WWE champion was the happiest day of his life. And the 9 days or the 8 days that followed him winning that, he took the honors of holding that belt for that short period of time. It meant the world to him. So I just think he deserved a little bit better recognition and a more appropriate welcoming in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I completely understand your frustration with that. That's gotta sting a lot, not being able to properly induct your father and honor him for his legacy.
Yeah, like I said, they did to some degree, but very minusculely. Like, like why wouldn't and not to invite me or inform me. I mean, just all of that. You put that all together, and people say, I called Vince McMahon. I have his number in my phone. I called him. I knew he wouldn't pick up because, especially, we've had conversations over the years, but I knew he wouldn't pick up because it was WrestleMania. Basically, I was on a Thursday that I learned this, I believe it was, and of course the Hall of Fame was on a Saturday, or it was on a Friday. That he's going to be wrapped up with everything, and I had texted him. I said, please don't put him in the Hall of Fame like that. Wait till next year when they're in New York, like MetLife Stadium in the New York, New Jersey area, which would have been more fitting because my dad was a big draw wherever he went, but it was even bigger in that New York region where WWE's backyard, and I thought it would have been more appropriate. It made more sense, at least to me. Of course, he texted me back, said it wasn't a personal thing. It was all just a business company decision. And I'm like, how could you not take that personal? Not only are you putting a legend into the WWE Hall of Fame the way that you're doing this through a video package, and B, you're not inviting me. You didn't even inform me. No one from the office called me. I learned this through Twitter from wrestling fans, which was nice of them. They were excited about it, but I was just heartbroken, man. So, like, how could you not take that personal? Of course I took it personal. It hurt, man. But enough. I moved on, released it, That's on them. And I believe in karma, and I believe that, good things will come your way if you're a good person and, you put out good energy. So we'll leave that up to a higher power on how that should be taken care of.
All right, well, on to my next question. So, when you were originally going to come to the WWF, you had pitched a character called Fobia. Can you tell me where the idea of this character came from and why you think it didn't catch on?
Well, it didn't catch because at that time, I was so green and I didn't know really anything other than just growing up around the business. I was a great athlete. I was an NCAA wrestler. I wrestled all through high school and of course Division I for Boise State. I was in great shape, and I still am in shape now. I mean, it's been my lifestyle all these years. But my point is, I was just very green when it came to the wrestling business. So as far as really understanding or learning psychology and how to put life into an actual character, I didn't know if I was coming or going. Right? I was just so over the years, even as a young kid, I just love the face paint. I'm a big Halloween freak. I'm a big kid. I'm a kid year round, but especially Halloween, right? And I was a Kiss fan. At least not so much their music, but I loved the album. There's one particular album they had that had the four: Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and God, I'm missing somebody. Peter Criss, probably way before your time. You probably don't know, but maybe you do. I don't.
Yeah, I know Kiss. Are you there, Shawn?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you cut out for a second.
Oh. Okay, sorry, man. I'm just driving here. Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, I can hear you okay now.
Okay, so and then of course, my dad retired from the business in '84, but I continued to watch wrestling and got into the weights and made some friends who were footballers. I was only a wrestler in our group, but we were like weekend warriors, and we were just good athletes in high school, and we would watch wrestling. That's when I lived in Toronto, a suburb outside of Toronto, and I continued watching it, and so that's when I started following like Sting, the Road Warriors, the Ultimate Warrior. I just love the face paint, larger than life, colored comic book come to life characters, right? And just came, right off the pages of the comic books into real life, and that's how I was just inspired by it, and the physiques and just that to create that live version of a comic book character, more or less, right, with the theatrics. Loved it. And so I was living in Boise, Idaho at the time. I had just finished up my wrestling career, but I still had, I think, another year of school or a semester or two to finish up to graduate, right? and that was part of my scholarship. I could basically use that scholarship to get my degree. And there was a couple Halloweens there. That of course, Halloween. There's Halloween parties and functions going on. So I got tired of being wrestlers. 1 year I was Rick Rude. The next year I was Ultimate Warrior. And then what had happened is I was living in the dorms at the time, and what had happened is for about 2 weeks, I think it was in May of, I want to say 1994. This is way before your time. But what year were you born, Taylor?
2003.
Yeah, so way before your time. A few years, about a decade before. So anyway, 1994, I'm in the dorms at Boise State, and they didn't have air conditioning in the dorms. But the springtime, and it was getting kind of warmer out, so you have to put a fan on and open the window a little bit to kind of control the temperature, right? It usually got cooler at night, but you'd have to keep your room temp and to a comfortable level that way. Well, when a fan's running, sometimes debris things pick up or whatever floating around in the air, right? Well, for 2 weeks I kept feeling like this. It was like a debris or some kind of, I don't know what. It felt like it was kind of itching my nose and my face, and this went on for 2 weeks. But I noticed that I was breaking out with I was stressed with school exams, and I thought they were just stress bumps or just stressed out, and I was breaking out with these little bumps on my face. And but I just always felt like this debris or something maybe running across my face, for about 2 weeks. And I was feeling nauseous for that 2 weeks, and then I finally went into the nurse, the school clinic for students, and I went to a nurse, and she did a little cotton swab thing and took off, left the room for 5 minutes, came back. She goes, "Shawn, those aren't like pimples or stress bumps. Those are spider bites." I went, "What? Are you kidding me?" And then I started putting two and two together, and I went back to my dorm, and I had this distinctive feel. I said, "You know what? It does feel like maybe something like a spider or bug was crawling on my face, for the last 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Where are these little bastards?" Right? I'm looking in my room, and I start tearing things around, looking in my closet. I'm looking through drawers. I finally took my bed that was up against the wall and pulled it out of the wall, and I see these little spiders running up the side of the wall. These little tiny spiders, right? Not sure what kind they were. I don't think they were overly toxic, because I felt a little nauseous. I think that them bite me continuously for 2 weeks didn't help, but I don't think they were like a brown recluse or something that would have been really bad. But lo and behold, there was a spider nest underneath my bed. Taylor, this is a true story.
Wow.
And you can go to my website, fobiatv.com, FOBIATV.com, fobiatv.com. Everything on that website is real. Now that website needs to be updated, but the story, how it all came about, everything about that character that I ended up creating from this whole experience is on that website. Everything's organic and transparent and real. And there's nothing made up. Talking about Spider-Man and Peter Parker getting bitten by a radioactive spider, that's all fake. That's a makeup. That's a made-up. This is a real story. This really happened. And that's how Fobia was born. But so what happened was, in the Halloween rolled around, that next Halloween, right, a couple of months later, because this happened in May or June, I had this spider experience. I could never go back to that room, by the way, after that happened. I was so freaked out about spiders now, right? Mm-hmm. Even though the exterminator came over, I got this all on foot. By the way, I'll be coming out with a kind of a mini documentary / interview format. I'm actually going a comic book route with the character now, and I'll fill you in more later with that when it comes out. But you'll be seeing in the next, probably in October, you're going to see a video surfacing that's going to tell the whole story. We have B-roll, have everything about this character, its origins, how it came about, everything, right? What it means, what it stands for. And what life I've put into it now that reflects. It's very relatable for people, and it's a very inspiring message. But I said, you know what? I'm going to be my own character this year for Halloween. I'm tired of being other wrestlers, right? I'm Sting 1 year, Ultimate Warrior the next, Rick Rude, I'm like, let me do my own thing. So I started painting my face, and I said, what could cover my whole face? That would be a cool design that would cover the whole face. I thought, well, shit, a spider, man, 8 legs. Let's do this. So I messed around with it, and I came up with this design, and it's changed since then. This is like the embryonic stages of the character. Jet black hair sticking straight up, had a black jacket on, the face paint was black and white. Just those two colors, and I just muttered one word under my breath, and as I looked in the mirror, I said, "What the heck is this? What am I?" When people ask me tonight, "Hey, what changed this cool costume? What are you?" And I just muttered, "Fobia," and that's how that came about. So then, for 2 years, I would get on local Channel 7 news there in Boise because I had a good relationship with the news crew, right? Because I was an athlete there for Boise State. I was there starting the heavyweight for 3 years for Boise State. And I said, listen, there's no wrestling schools, pro wrestling schools here in Boise. But I want to take advantage of doing safe trick-or-treating and PSA for kids in the community, and this will give me a reason to do the character and get some footage so I can send it to WWE and see if I can get a tryout, right? And at that time, this is in 1990, I think 6 and 7, maybe it was 96. I think it was the summer or the fall of 96. Anyway, maybe it was 95 I started the character, 94, 95. Can't remember now exactly. But the next year, I kind of perfected it or started refining the character. Going on Channel 7 News, did the safe trick-or-treating. Did another year. The following year, I think it was in 97 of October, Halloween time, 97. And basically kind of created my own little following there in Boise of Fobia. But I was using that footage to send to WWE to see if I could pique their interest. And sure enough, shortly after my father had passed in June of 97, they did give me a call and said, "Hey, we've seen your VHS tape. That's how far back this goes. We're still using VHS tapes." They liked what they saw, and they flew me out for a tryout. I had my tryout. Then they called me back in 1998 to come out full time and train with them and put me on a developmental deal. And I only had one little tryout match with the Fobia character, but I had no idea what I was doing with it, to be honest with you. And what's ironic is the guy I wrestled in the tryout match with the Fobia character. You know who it was?
Who was it?
Crash Holly.
Crash Holly.
Of all people, right? Considering you said Crash Hardy is your YouTube channel's name. I thought that was kind of ironic, but anyway.
Yeah.
So Fobia just got put on the shelf. It never became a wrestling character. Of course, the rest is history. I had the Meat character, which was cheesy, but it got my start. It's like an actor taking a role in a cheesy comic TV show, and I just ran with it. And then, I had my WWE experience with the WCW, came back to WWE, and then, that was it. It was a wash, and then I never looked back since 2002. But as far as Fobia, that was the wrestling idea, and it was inspired in some influence from like Sting and Warrior, because I love the face paint. I love the comic book come to life notion. And I will say one thing though, and I just shared this story just as a matter of fact. I was at the bank and just spoke to the banker about it, and we were just talking about some things, and I mentioned the story about how Hulk Hogan, back in 2010, when he was with TNA, he loved Fobia. I also have another character that I was playing around with called Phoenix, another face-painted character, and it was either Fobia or Phoenix, but he needed somebody to be Sting's adversary. And I was thinking, oh my God, I couldn't believe my young teenage dream was, are you kidding me? I might be Fobia or the Phoenix character to work with Sting, the icon Sting, who's a great friend of mine now, lives a couple hours from me, doesn't live too far, like here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But anyway, point is, it never came to fruition. I was so bummed out about it because I thought for sure that, Hulk was going to bring this in, but somehow, the wrestling business, very political, who knows, it got kiboshed, and it never came to fruition. At the time, I was brokenhearted about it. I was like, man, what happened, But fast forward to now, I'm so glad that it never became a wrestling character because WWE never used it. We had that one tryout match at the time. Now, if I was Fobia now, with my experience and knowledge and wisdom of the business and psychology and being trained now, even though I've been away for so long, but I understand psychology much, much better, it would be a completely different character. Like, I would play it so differently, right? I'm much more seasoned now. But at the time, I had no idea what I was doing with it. I just thought it was a cool look, and it was just an idea. But I'm so glad it never became a wrestling character because now I get to use it in a bigger way. And because it just would have been probably just another cheesy face painted wrestling character and buried somehow if it didn't have, some real creative rockets on its back, right, to make it to make it really go. And so now I get to use it on more of a mainstream platform, and it's more of a DC type storyline. And by the way, Fobia is only as good as Dr. Shawn. I'm Dr. Shawn. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a chiropractor by day, but Fobia is Dr. Shawn's alter ego. He's not a superhero. He's not a wrestler. He doesn't fly. He doesn't bounce around buildings and all that like Spider-Man. He's just a normal guy that paints his face, that puts him into an alter ego trance that takes him to the deepest, darkest archives of his mind to go get into the minds of criminals and bad people to go fight them. He's a vigilante. So that's what Fobia really is on a storyline, and you'll learn more about this as more and more content comes out. So just stay tuned for that. But I'm very excited about it because it's a passion project of mine, and yeah, it never became a wrestling character, and now I get to use it for something in the comic book world, and I'm working on the first comic book now. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But that's a long answer to your question about Fobia and why it never came to fruition as a wrestler. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah, it answered my question perfectly. So on to my next question. This is about your first release from the WWF. So, according to Dave Meltzer, which is a loose source, I mean, you can't trust everything he says, but according to him, you were released from the WWF because you had recorded a conversation between Steve Blackman and the British Bulldog, and you were doing it secretly, allegedly, and the story goes that Vince fired you in a talent meeting in front of everybody to set an example. What's your story?
Well, I said this to you yesterday in a private message. This story has followed me, and it always will. It just goes synonymous with my name. It's an unfortunate situation, but I just embrace it. It used to bother me, and I'll be honest, it really, this incident, I really feel that it kind of ruined my career in the sense that I was never able to recover in the eyes of the brass at WWE, even though they brought me back after they had released me and I went to WCW. Which I ended up having a better year than with WWE. I had more TV time. I was a 3-time tag team champion with Chuck Palumbo. I made more money. I traveled the world. I had more fun. These are all the things I always wanted to just do with WWE. I never wanted to work for any other company than WWE. But that was the situation that happened that was completely and utterly blown out of proportion. Now, when I look back at something like that, me being this stage of my life and being an older man, in my early 50s and being around the business, if that would have happened if a young rook came in and I learned about this tape recorder thing, that would bother me too. And what the unfortunate thing is, it would break a lot of people's trust, in the locker room or being around the person. And I completely understand that, but most people knew there was really nothing to ever worry about. It was just a prank that I was playing on two guys that backfired. And it was just, you've heard the term, wrong place, wrong time. That's what it was. If any of these people knew me when I was in high school, my dad gave me my first tape recorder when I was a kid, and I used to love to, do invitations and interviews and just documenting things, recording. That's just what I did. And it was even encouraged when I was training with WWE, hey, you're on the road, you got a lot of time in the car traveling, get a tape recorder and work on your craft, work on your character, work on your promo skills, your interviews, and perfecting your character. So that's why I had it with me in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things where, but that was just me. I just love to document things, video camera, audio stuff, tape recorders. And so that's just, so what had happened was this particular situation. I was with the two people you mentioned, traveling with them for the weekend. They were on some kind of wrestling loop. We're up in Quebec, Canada, and everything's French there. And these guys, when you're on the road for 3-4 days, you're tired, you're sore, you just want to get home, man, And so these guys were bickering and in the car, like just kind of like little kids, and I just thought it was funny. And I had the tape recorder. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna rip them. I'm gonna record their conversation, as a joke, and then play it back for them. Just say, hey, this is what you guys sounded like. You sound like a couple little girls arguing all day, as a joke. But where I went wrong was there was a time, and this happened. I think I did this over a day or two period. Like it was, I've heard so many stories and fabricated versions of the story. It's like, my God, it's incredible how a story just gets going in so many different directions, and it just picks up life. And there's this legendary story about me. Was I working for hard copy? Was I recording people's, gonna use it as blackmail? Oh, another one is I was so paranoid that people were talking about me that I was recording with a tape recorder in my bag in the locker room to see who was talking about me. Like, just completely and utter bullshit. Like, none of that's true. None of it, right?
Yeah.
And but anyway, that I laugh when I hear it now. Like I've heard Jim Cornette. I like Jim Cornette. I think he's got a great show. He's definitely a character. I don't think I agree on his political views, but that's another story. But the point being is that, no, he's a great talent, great mind for the business, and so I've heard him bring me up a couple times with that incident. And I'm like, Jim, you've got it so wrong, buddy. You have no idea then. You've drank the Kool-Aid. You bought the bullshit that's out there, about this story. So I had fun for a day or two in the car, picking up, incremental, just them arguing and bickering. I was going to play it back for them, and then I was just going to delete it or record over it like I record over everything back then, just for the most part, it was back during the cassette tapes too. I had like all these cassette tapes in my bag, and I had the recorder. It was like a Walkman and a tape recorder, right? That I had with me, like those old school Walkmans. You probably don't remember that. It was way before your time, but
I've heard of it.
But anyway, yeah. Okay, so you just look it up online and see what that looks like. Google it. But it's anyway. So where I went wrong was I was at the Montreal airport and I whipped out the tape recorder. We were at the terminal, and I was just acting stupid. I had it going, and I was acting like a reporter. I said, hey, Steve, we're at the Montreal airport. Everything's in French. What do you think of that? And I put the tape recorder up to his face like I'm interviewing him, right? And he kind of looked at me, and he said, you're not recording, are you? I said, well, yeah, I am. He's like, well, and I shut it off right away because I realized, okay, he's not taking that too well, or he might be misperceiving what my intentions were. I was just joking around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, he says, you were recording like in the car or anything like that, were you? Like, you got paranoid, right? And I said, where I went wrong is I didn't tell the truth. I lied. I said, no, I wasn't recording. At that point, right then and there, I knew. I said, okay, he doesn't really know me that well. It just dawned, I went, you dumbass. I said, yeah, don't. The easier thing to do is just say, yeah, you weren't recording. Because at that point, I knew the rib was over. Like, I wouldn't be able to play it back. I was like, okay, there goes that rib. I'll just record over it. Because there was nothing that was even pertinent on there. It was just them talking and being stupid and whatever, right? So, where I went wrong is I just, I lied about it, and I put it back in my bag. And I think it was the next week. Maybe it was the next, I don't know if it was the next loop, or it was I think it was the next loop. I think it was that much time that had gone by, like a full week had gone by, or 5 days or something. Anyway, a little period of time there went by, and then we're in Buffalo, New York. I'll never forget. And of course, I left the tape recorder and my cassettes and everything in my bag. I mean, if I was trying to record people's conversations and do something so mischievous, or why the fuck would why would I bring that evidence back in my? I didn't even think twice of it. I just put it in my bag, and there goes that rib. That's over, right? You see what I'm saying? And so where I went wrong, in my mind, I wasn't thinking twice about it, but they went into my bag and snooped around, saw the tape recorder, played it, and heard their voices on it. And that was not a good look for me. You can imagine what that looked like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they're all paranoid, and how long he's been recording, and it just blew up, man. And it was so unfortunate because the honest to God truth is I never had any wrongful intentions ever with that whatsoever. There was nothing more than just a little rib. I was going to play on two guys that backfired and ended up not only costing me my job, my dream job with WWE, but I don't think I was ever able to recover and give a fair shake in that company when I came back the second time after WCW. When they released me, I went to WCW. Most people, though, that had half a brain would realize that Shawn meant no harm with what he did. It was a dumb move. It was stupid looking back. It was a bonehead move. But as far as intention, as far as doing anything wrong with the stories I hear again, I was so paranoid. I had to record conversations, and she was talking about me. What kind of pertinent information did I record, and what dirt do I have on people? Maybe I'm working for WCW. Maybe I'm working for Hard Copy. I mean, and you know what? I guess rightfully so when you really think about it. But I know me so well, and people that know me, that are close to me, know me so well that I say you would never have anything to worry about with Shawn Stasiak doing that little rib or recording that he did whatsoever. But how do they know that, right? And I get it. It's just really unfortunate, man, that happened. But that's pretty much the story, man. It cost me my job, and they took me back, a year and a half later when WCW went under. But I think they just, honestly, they didn't really have big plans for me. They just used me to build and bigger, like other guys up, like the Brock Lesnar's of the world. And just, I was like the Wile E. Coyote of the WWE when I came back, running the milk trucks and walls. And I worked with The Rock, and Stone Cold and Kurt Angle. I had some great matches with Kurt Angle too, man. The dark matches that no one's ever seen. We gelled very well. Could have had a great program with him because I have an amateur background. There's a little bit of a story there. I looked up to Kurt when he won the gold medal. Same with Brock Lesnar. Could have had a storyline there. The Rock, there's a lot of lineage and history there with my dad, his grandfather, my dad, and that whole lineage thing. So, I just, nothing pertinent came from my career as far as WB. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to be on that platform, and with social media and being part of the WB network on Peacock. I mean, it keeps me somewhat relevant. People still remember, and I didn't realize how. I was always down about my career. I was always like, man, I didn't even scratch the surface, and I never really got a fair shake. If I would have stayed with WCW, that would have stayed in business. I was told I was elevating. I was getting better and better, getting more comfortable in the ring, learning more about psychology, getting more comfortable in my skin, and my promos. Like, everything was just coming together. Another year or two of that, I was told that I was going to be in the running for the U.S. title with between Booker T and Jeff Jarrett. That was like the next elevation spot for me. But then the company got bought out, and then I guess Vince just never had. I don't know if it was him himself. I don't know if it was just people in his ear that just had it out for me and just used that tape recorder incident as a way to keep reminding him. I don't know, Taylor. I'll never know, and it doesn't matter because what's meant to happen happens, and it is what it is. What can I say? But I'm grateful that I had my opportunity that I did have, and I can say, sometimes it depends on how I look at my career. If the cup's half empty or half full. If it's half empty, I'm like, kind of sucks, man. Coming from my background, my lineage, and being the athlete that I had been, they really lost the opportunity of capital. They've done that with a lot of talent over the years. But with me, for sure, that happened. I never scratched the surface of my potential. And it's just unfortunate. It could have made a lot of money and made a lot more memories. But when I look at the cup as half full, it's like, you know what? I made it to the WWE. I was on the roster. People know who I am all around the world. I've been in video games. I've traveled the world. I've been in commercials. I've done different entertainment projects. I work with the biggest names like Rock and Stone Cold. I mean, little brief stints, but hey, I was a 3-time, tag team champion in WCW. I got to taste that life and that level that so many millions of people will never have the experience of doing. So it's really how you look at it, right? I just have to, the better choice is to take, hey, what can you learn from the experience and use it for today and something that's positive moving forward.
Well, I like your outlook on it, at least, positive attitude. Well, I guess that's all I got for you, Shawn. I'll thank you for doing this interview with me. I appreciate it. I think we had a good time here today. And
yeah,
you got.
I gave you some long, many rabbit hole answers, but I think you got a lot of information from that. I hope I gave you what you needed.
Well, is there anything you'd like to promote?
Well, people can just follow me on Twitter, also on Instagram. It's Dr. Shawn 008, DRSHAWN 008, or just Shawn Stasiak Twitter, Shawn Stasiak IG. It'll come up, right? Facebook is Shawn Stasiak _Stipich. But yeah, I'm going to be and check out FobiaTV.com, FOBIA.TV.com. We're going to be upgrading the website soon. You're going to see some. I'm going to be producing some new content. I'm developing actually a speaking career too. I don't know if I mentioned that, but so my speaking is going to be, basically we're all wrestling with something in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling with fear though is a big one, and because Fobia is a fear-based character, and the message is face your fear and own your life, because we're too many of us, Taylor, are shackled and imprisoned our own minds with fear that lead us to a mediocrity life, meaning like a subpar life, like people are doing jobs that they hate, they're miserable, they don't, they can't find happiness, and so, they imprison themselves, they shackle themselves in their own minds, and so it's all because of fear. And fear is just a story and a narrative they made up in their mind about something that they've given so much power to. So the premise of the character is, it's phobia, it means a fear, right? But it's about facing your fears and overcoming those fears and owning your life and living a full, enriched, vibrant, purposeful life. So if you go to FobiaTV.com, check that out. And then me as a speaker, again, I'm going to be immersing myself in corporate speaking, but I'll speak at school venues and things. But yeah, it's wrestling with fear, and that's all I have for now. Once I get things up and going, soon I'll be doing some wellness life coaching as well. And when I say wellness, it's not just, people always want to know, how do you get in great shape, Shawn? Like, you're in such good shape still, and well, it's a lifestyle, right? But it's not just the physical, it's not just exercise and nutrition. It's mindset, it's emotional, spiritual. So this program I'm putting together is kind of an overall betterment program for anybody that just wants to be a better person, a better human being in life, and to live their true potential. So that's what I've got going on. You got my social media handles. That's how you found me, right?
Yeah.
On IG. And then you've got the website, and I've got a YouTube channel called Shawn Stasiak's World. Man, I don't have even 1,000 subscribers yet. I'm getting close. I think I'm at 800. But I'm going to start producing more content, too. It's going to be stuff that's going to reflect me as a speaker and the Fobia character and project and the wellness life coaching. So I'll be putting some more content out on there soon and staying, being consistent with that. So check that out, too. Shawn Stasiak's World on YouTube.
All right, well, thank you, Shawn. I'll let you go now.
Well, Taylor, thanks for the opportunity to talk and get that word out there, and hopefully I was able to resonate with the listeners and hopefully the stories will resonate where they can take that message and apply it to their lives in some way, some form of inspiration to help them with any breakthroughs or anything they're wrestling with in their lives that can help them, in their betterment. So, you take care, man. Stay in touch.
All right, you take care as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks, that was Shawn Stasiak. Would have liked to have asked him a bit more questions, maybe done some name association, but Shawn was on his way to something, so I did not want to drag it out too long and take up too much of his time. Maybe he did have some long answers to questions, but I'm not going to complain. It was a decent interview, and hopefully you guys can check out Shawn on all those things that he told you about. He's got YouTube, he's on Twitter, or X as Elon Musk wants to call it. And thank you all for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button. Comment down below if there's a wrestler you want me to interview. Maybe I can work something out. If you subscribe, then you'll be able to see my content whenever it gets released. And that's all I got for you. Have a good day.